Dahad, and I'm here today with Jochen Hanebeck, CEO of Infineon Technologies. Jochen, hello.
Hi, Nathan.
How are
How are
you?
you? Fine.
Good. So, welcome to the Silicon Grapevine podcast. And as you know, we talk through executives' personal, professional journeys, and just get some insights into your life, your career, your likes, dislikes. But maybe just for the sake of, I know everybody knows Infineon, but just give us a little bit of overview of the company.
Yeah, Infineon is is the company for power semiconductors, for power systems. It's the number one for automotive semiconductors. And what is for me very important is that we are driving decarbonization and digitalization together with our partners, with our customers. So it's a very authentic story, right? We have a clear mission and we have the competences to lead in those markets and make this world a better place.
Now, I mean, one of the things we are actually, although you'll be watching this online sometime in the period of the internet, we're actually recording this at CES in Las Vegas in 2025. And how does that plug into some of the things we're seeing as the trends here? Because I'm seeing a lot of visionary things from, right, like from the keynote from Delta to, the NVIDIA and all these aspirational visions.
Yeah, I guess 2025 will be another year about AI, and I agree with you. The NVIDIA keynote, Jensen, was very inspiring, and by the way, it's also one of our strong growth drivers these days. AI is a lot about power. We know it's very, very power hungry. A lot of power management to get from the grid to the core voltage. And it's one of the most exciting areas in our business as we speak.
And one of the big announcements in 2024, and I visited your Campion campus as well, and we talked about it, so our readers can refer back to it, but was the big 300 millimeter GaN announcement. So I think that's quite a big step for you for 2024.
Yeah, it's for us, in a way, a natural step, right? We want to be the leader in power systems, no matter in which end of application you can find the power systems. And in that regard, it's for us clear that we need to lead the market in terms of material for the power switches. And you see here two examples, and one of them is what you mentioned, the gallium nitride on 300 millimeter was a big event. We also talked about later about ultra thin silicon wafers, 20 micron, a fraction of a thickness of the hair. Of course, we are also into silicon carbide, but we don't stop there. We provide to our customers system solution, meaning drivers, microcontrollers, also parts of the software. So really being the leader in power systems, and in that regard, mastering all these three materials is for us the natural challenge and then where we want to be.
And I'm seeing that at a lot of trade shows around the world. I mean, from the US to China, there's this whole electrification and the mixture of the technologies, the gallium nitride, silicon carbide, but also, I mean, I was at a show in Shenzhen in China, and a huge battery show, like maybe 4 times as bigger than Electronica in Munich. It's a big thing right now.
Yeah, there are many things that drive us apart, what it feels like at this moment on globally, but the drive for electrification and the drive towards decarbonization is something that unites us. And in that regard, I'm also very happy that we serve customers across all regions with our products, and AI is one, but e-mobility is another, and of course renewable, as you mentioned, is another area of power systems, and with that we have touched already 3 big growth drivers for the company going forward.
So let's turn to a little bit about your journey. First of all, how did you get into the world of electronics? I mean, you've been with Infineon 31 years, so I think your career maps Infineon's career, as it were, but before that.
Yeah. First, it's really a long period if you think back, but it's has been a very, very rewarding time. But let's start with the beginning. Actually, my first contact with semiconductors was not on the semiconductor level, but rather on the next level of designing industrial electronic control units in a very, very small company, just in the neighborhood of my parents' home. And I went there to beef up my pocket money.
And this is 15 years old, 16 years old?
15, 16 years old, right?
Yeah.
And I started out soldering some PCBs, and then I went into a bit of software. But I always wanted to know more about this thing, right? Microcontrollers, nice thing to program, but then how does the thing really work? And that was also for me the motivation to go to the University of Aachen, which is a well-known university for electrical engineering in Germany. But it was also very clear from the beginning that during my, what you would call today, my master, I was focusing on solid-state electronics, even though at that time semiconductor industry in Germany was not in the best state. Basically, nobody wanted to invest any.
That was 1980s, something, 90s.
That was out of the 80s.
80s, yes.
And then I was lucky because Siemens at that point decided to build a new fab in Dresden and discovered they had no more talents for semiconductors. And as we know, you cannot pick them up on the street.
Yep.
And then I was very lucky to be offered the first career step in Fishkill, at the joint development between IBM, Toshiba, and Siemens.
Yes.
And that was a lucky strike because at that time it was, I always call it the sort of mecca of the semiconductor industry.
Yes, that's right.
And being there as a greenhorn amongst all these very, very experienced people was a specific pleasure and a very, very fast learning curve.
I hear that quite a lot from the interviews I've done where you've gone fresh, young, into lots of experience.
Yes.
And you're soaking up the knowledge from the experience. I think in a way, when we talk about talent shortage now, you need to have that mixture of the experience and the young to try and get that.
And if the young is curious and if the experience is willing to pass on the know-how, it can be an extremely powerful combination. And that's what I found there. And I really valued it. And also interculturally, it was very interesting. We all know Germans work different than Japanese and then American teams. And so it was really fascinating time.
Yeah. So I'm just fascinated because you did this for pocket money. So just imagine if you didn't go into
IBM any longer, right?
No.
Only at the beginning I worked for pocket money.
So it depends if you got another job that you might have ended up in another profession altogether.
Yeah, maybe.
But you had that engineering inquiring mind.
Yeah, I think the engineering direction was set already in my mind.
Okay.
And I'm not sure whether any other industry would have caught my fascination so much. At the end, I can say I enjoyed every day in the semiconductor industry since then. Of course, there are sometimes challenges, but also challenges are there to overcome, and there's things to learn, and the sheer dimensions you can work on in the semiconductor industry is for me what is so fascinating, right? It's not a improvement industry. It's you work on innovations that disrupt, that contribute to breakthroughs, and that is what always fascinates me.
So that's quite interesting because when I started out, obviously maybe a few years before you, but it was very focused in a specific area. But now, like, it's entrenched in every part of our lives. So I think there's even more opportunity to innovate.
Yeah, but I think there were also waves, right? I think there were waves also in the semiconductor industry where we thought, okay, we have invented everything. What's next? Waiting. And then all of a sudden, the next big thing came, and just what we have experienced now with
AI. Yes.
And this sort of dynamics, and it's very difficult to predict where it comes, and that's why it's also from a company setup, it's important for us to prepare ourselves in terms of competences, right? We have the competence to manage power. And where exactly the next frontier of power semiconductors or power systems will be, I don't know. But I know whenever power is required, Infineon is in the game.
Yes, I mean, everybody's talking about nuclear and fission, all that right now. So I guess, that could be the next.
Yeah, even though I think their semiconductors can maybe offer a better solution, because I personally believe that we have the renewables. We know they are cheap as it can be. The one thing we need to solve is the base load topic, but even there, let's see. But I think we will see a big acceleration in electrical storage systems, battery-based, and they will become very cheap, semiconductors.
Yes.
And then let's debate in 2 years whether there is still a space for other non-semiconductor technologies.
Interesting. So you came into the job at Siemens, Infineon. So what's the next phase of change for you there?
The next phase of change was moving from an R&D environment in Fishkill to a production environment in Dresden, the facility Siemens was building at that time for DRAM.
Yes.
And there I worked on one more generation of DRAMs. And then I thought, okay, semiconductor must be more than DRAMs. And I changed to the headquarter and served there in some central functions in more operations related. I then also spent at some central departments in terms of excellence, going back closer to the business, building up the first manufacturing site for Siemens, wafer manufacturing in Malaysia, which was a big step. Having the right fortune, as we all know, building semiconductor factory is one thing, is making the right bets on the structural growth drivers, but to get the timing right is also some fortune included.
Being in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. And we were right. We were spot on. It was allocation time, so the factory was humming from day one onwards. And then I thought, okay, having seen everything in our operations, I really wanted to change to the business side of things. And first short step into automotive microcontrollers, and then leading the whole automotive business for almost 8 years. Then being promoted to into the board, first as a COO, and since now almost 3 years as CEO.
It's very different from when you started to being a CEO. What are the things that are different in your life now? Obviously, there's a lot more responsibility, but is there anything else that you feel like is really a very big transformation in you?
Yeah, I think the number of topics and the different nature of topics that come to me every day is very different from all the previous assignments I had. And on one hand, it's fascinating because I can't really predict the next day. I mean, to a certain degree, but many new topics come up. And then, of course, it's very important to have a strong team because yes, I'm kind of the figurehead of the company, but I know I cannot do anything without my team. And ultimately, the success of the company is the success of the leadership team. It's the success of everybody at Infineon, and that is, for me, also something that gives me confidence that even though I'm the figurehead, I'm not alone, and many bright people work on all the topics that come up, but also the opportunities that come up.
There's not, I mean, when I think about it, I mean, there are now, but in the past, there weren't many engineers or who became CEO. Now you've got a few.
I think it's a good choice in general if you look across the industry.
Yeah, so I think it's
technical side.
But I think that gives you a bit of confidence in what you're talking about as well, to a certain extent here.
I think to run a semiconductor company, you should better know what semiconductors are, because at the end of the day, you need to make predictions where a certain application market is developing to in 5 years, sometimes 10 years down the road, and what sort of competences, again, competences
Yes.
ultimately are the success factor, because you cannot predict markets over such long periods. But what sort of competences you need to develop, and to do that without a sound technical know-how, at least for me, would be difficult, but that's maybe a personal view.
What do you think are your greatest achievements in your maybe like both personal and career? Career, I think probably IPO is one of those, but
Yeah, IPO, it was an interesting time to contribute. If I call out success stories, first of all, it's this holistic picture of Infineon contributing to decarbonization and digitalization, and we do this in a very authentic manner, meaning we are not only talking to our customers and what we can do with our products, but we do it ourselves. So
practice what you preach.
exactly.
Yeah.
For being authentic also as a leader is for me very important. And
That comes over, by the way. It comes over.
and I think the areas where Infineon is now known for, being the number one in power systems, being the number one in automotive, I was able to contribute, and there are many parts of it. But again, it's team success. It's a team success where we stand today in automotive microcontrollers. It's a success of other teams developing all these power technologies, also sensors. So it's the whole story that makes me really proud.
What do you think? Are there any lessons that you've learned through this? I mean, I know you talked about competence, teamwork, but is there something more fundamental?
Yeah, after 30 years, there are probably a lot of lessons. So I think it depends where you are in your career in terms of lessons. But if I talk to young people joining the company, I tell them, from my experience, be curious, first thing. The second is do what you enjoy. And I think that is something that is independent from your professional choices. I'm also telling it to my daughters. Do what you enjoy, because if you enjoy something, you will likely be good, you will be recognized, and you will have success. Don't force yourself into something just because it's en vogue. But really do what you like, and then be curious, and don't think too far down the road. Rather look, okay, now I gained experience in one factual area, try out another one. And then, of course, if you progress in your career, think about that one dimension in your experience should be along functional know-how. The other one should be along leadership, because the more you progress in the career, the more leadership becomes important. For me today, it's all about leadership, right?
Yes.
I still have some residual technological know-how.
Yes.
But it's all about leadership. So it really depends on where you are in the career. I also was very, very grateful to some mentors I had as bosses during my career, and because there you can learn in everyday exchange practices and collect experiences. So many things, and it really depends on whereabouts you are in career.
What about outside of work? Any hobbies, pastimes, or is it too consuming? Or before you became CEO, was there things you enjoyed doing? Do you talk about enjoy?
Yeah. And indeed, I think no matter how much you enjoy work, I think it's very important to have also a balance.
Yes.
And I was, for example, lucky to be always close to my family. I saw my kids growing up, which was very important to me.
Right.
I enjoy being in the countryside for whatever, walking mountains, skiing or whatever. So I need I need sometimes distance to work in order, first of all, to recover, but also to reflect on a higher level. And reflection, by the way, is one of those aspects which I would recommend to all leaders.
Yes.
Being probably the most important dimension, self-reflection.
Self-reflection, very good. Everybody's being visionary these days at CEO level. I know, like, there are specific things you're putting out with Infineon, but what's your vision of the future, for society, for the world?
Yeah, I think as we speak, I think we will have to manage more dimensions in the semiconductor world, right?
Yes.
When I joined
Mm.
the semiconductor space, and I guess it was similar for you.
Yes.
It was about innovation, right? Yes, we recognize what this technology is all about, and what we can do with it, and which problems we can solve, and which new features we can offer. Right now, it feels like that totally new dimensions come up in this world about geopolitics, and that is sometimes a very different aspect compared to the times when I joined, and I think therefore complexity really grows.
Yes.
As we speak, right? And that is something we need to manage while not forgetting where we want to drive the company, and driving decarbonization, digitalization with our products for our customers should be at the heart of all our doing. But at the same time, more and more complexity comes from left and right, which sometimes also feels a bit of a burden.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Maybe the question I ask to all my guests at the end of the podcast is, what would you advise young Jochen? Would you tell him, don't take that job, or take that job, or do what you want, do what you enjoy? Is that something you learned over experience, or what would you tell him?
I never thought about becoming CEO.
Yes.
I always thought about the next step, yes. And in the early days of my career, I reached the level of, let's say, saturation in the sense of learning faster, and I changed every 2-3 years. I picked up some new functional know-how, like from R&D into operations and then into business. I was always honestly a bit suspect about those people that say, okay, I will be a board member or even CEO. That was not my way. I'm rather a person that is also looking, if I look at talents, on substance, because at the end of the day, substance matters, and this is what I would recommend to every young engineer: build up substance, build up competences, and if you're really good at, then your career will develop, knowing that, of course, reaching the level of CEO also requires then to be sometimes at the right place in the right moment.
Well, that sounds like very good advice, Jochen. Thank you very much.
Pleasure with you.
Thank you.